back to do another song. So would you breathe with me, please? I know Kelly and Martin are really breathing a deep breath. And taking another breath. And one more, please. Give us a chance to get here. So my sweet mother had a condition called osteoporosis, which made her bones not as strong as she would have liked, obviously. And several times as she matured, she broke little bones in her spine and in her back just by doing a simple movement, and it would cause her a lot of discomfort. So as a result, she was prescribed a medication that was supposed to help delay the osteoporosis. It wasn't going to heal it, but it was supposed to delay it and keep it from getting worse. And the instructions were that every morning when she woke up, she was supposed to take this medication on an empty stomach and then wait for half an hour, right? That sounds simple, except it also meant that she wasn't able to have her morning coffee until after that 30 minutes had gone by. As a result, so people know this, right? As a result, she absolutely hated this medication. She took it very personally that the medicine kept her from having her morning coffee first thing in the morning. I am my mother's daughter, by the way. Don't talk to me until I've had my first morning coffee. So what my mom would do, and see if this sounds at all familiar to anybody, and my mom would take a break from taking her medication on certain special occasions, like birthdays or family vacations or holidays, and she would plan it like weeks in advance with great glee, right? She'd be like, ooh, Marshall's birthday is coming up. I don't have to take my medication, so I get to have my morning coffee first thing in the morning. Anybody? Is this making sense to anybody? I'm making her sound like a crazy person, and she wasn't. She was actually a delightful person who just happened to really like her morning coffee. So you may be wondering, okay, why is she starting with this story? Because it leads me to what it is that I want to talk about today, which is not special occasions like parties or celebrations, but rather those times when we forsake what we know is good for us to indulge in something that is not as good for us in the name of a special occasion. Anybody? And we know. We all do it. Maybe we're trying to release weight, but we're going to have a couple of pieces of candy because it's a special occasion. Maybe we're trying to quit drinking, but we have that one drink at our cousin's wedding, which leads to more. We've committed to an exercise program, but we forego our workout for several days because, and you fill in the blank. In fact, I did this yesterday. As I was preparing the talk, I was going to go to a Zumba class, but I stayed home instead because writing the talk was going so well, it became a special occasion. Yeah. The challenge is that when we give into those special occasions, it can keep us from more fully developing better habits, which bring us better choices, which brings us a more fulfilling life. The way this got all started was a quote by Colin Powell that somebody sent me. If you are going to achieve excellence in big things, you develop the habit in little matters. Excellence is not an exception. It is a prevailing attitude. Yeah. In other words, if we're going to achieve those things that we say that we want in life, we need to develop the discipline in the small things, which leads us to the bigger things. It's the beauty of the 12-step adage of one day at a time. Often when we look at that big thing, whatever that big thing is, we realize we don't have the consciousness of what that big thing is. It seems too big, it seems too fast, it seems too difficult. But when we use that adage of one day at a time, we can do it for a day. And then we can do it for another day. And then another day. And the beauty of that is that as we begin to do this, we start to build the habit. And as we build the habit, we subsequently build the consciousness of the thing that we say we want. In other words, the more consistent, the more reliable we are in doing this, the stronger the habit becomes, and the closer we get to realizing our dream. So as some of you know, certainly if you're one of my Facebook friends, you know this, that I just recently, Friday, celebrated my 31st sobriety birthday. A quarter of you were not even alive when I had my last drink, which was the day, maybe not, no, most of you were, let's face it. But the day before St. Patrick's Day, I went out on a bender. And I was too hungover to have a drink on St. Patrick's Day, so I now call my sobriety birthday St. Patricia's Day. Yeah. So I know what I'm talking about here, okay? Okay? So in the beginning, when I first was doing this, I didn't have the consciousness of sobriety yet. I had the consciousness of drinking and drugging too much. That was my consciousness. Those were my habits. So when I first got sober, I clung to that idea of one day at a time. In some cases, it was even 1 hour at a time. Okay, I won't drink. At noon, I'll renegotiate. Okay, it's noon. Okay, I won't drink until 1. Sometimes it was days like that. And I did everything that I was told to do, sort of, because, you know, I'm a bit of a rebel. So it was like, okay, that doesn't really apply to me. They have a thing in 12 Steps when you're like that, they call you terminal uniqueness. It's like, oh yeah, I don't really belong here. But you know what? I did. But in that time, with that one day at a time, the only thing I did was not drink. No matter what. I did not drink. Not for special occasions, not for loneliness or happiness or sadness or a breakup in a relationship or joy or celebration. I just didn't drink no matter what, until that became my habit. Ernest Holmes said, we must learn that the mind can, if we desire, be controlled so that we can gradually come into the habitual state of thinking the way we choose to think. Because as we know, what we think about comes about. Yes? Yes. Okay. All right. Now, the question is, have I been that disciplined in all areas of my life? Clearly not. Like everybody, I'm a work in progress. I eat too much, and I eat too much of the wrong things. As I said, I often talk myself out of going to gym for special occasions. I'm not as organized as I would like to be, which is why I love Ethel, because she's amazingly organized. I don't meditate quite as consistently as I think I should. And yet I still strive to do better every day, just as I know you do as well. And yet, sometimes, when we do that falling off the wagon, should we say, that becomes part of our spiritual journey. It's part of our soul's growth. It's part of our evolution. So consistently and reliably choosing a higher idea, striving for that, making a better choice, making a more evolved decision, even after we've indulged in a special occasion. Because part of our consciousness expansion and our growth is picking ourselves up again after making a poor choice and starting all over again. And I don't mean this to sound like a motivational poster in a sales office somewhere. I truly, absolutely believe this. Because when we start again, after indulging or falling, shall we say, we're not in the same place that we were when we originally started. In other words, while we've been on the path and we've been working on a new habit and we've been doing the things that we think that we should be doing, we've grown, we've evolved. Does that make sense? So even if we do fall off the wagon, for lack of a better term, whatever that wagon is for you, we're not in the same place that we were when we got started on the wagon. Does that make sense? Yes? I've progressed, even if I have fallen, I've progressed from where it was that I started. So then I start where I am again, and I progress again, and if I fall again, then I'm still further. In fact, this is what Richard Branson said. He said, "My attitude has always been, if you fall flat on your face, at least you're moving forward. All you have to do is get back up and try again." The good news is that when we do, sorry, you don't see that one yet. When we do that, the new way of being or the new way of thinking or the new habit becomes our habit. And then that becomes our way of life. Like I did 31 years ago on Friday. Ovid said, habits change into character. Habits change into character. So now we're going to go from a motivational talk on developing good life habits, and we're going to go now to a spiritual talk on developing good thought habits. Because metaphysics teaches us, and we are a metaphysical teaching, metaphysics teaches us that how we think determines how we see the world, and subsequently how the world it shows up for us. How we think determines how the world shows up for us. So if we habitually think that the world is unfriendly and it's a scary place and it's out of control, which sometimes it feels like it is, but if this is what we continually think about, then that is what we experience. That is what we see. It is what determines how the world shows up for us. And of course, the opposite is also true. If we habitually think that the world is friendly and supportive and orderly, which it is, that's also how it will appear to us. I love this adage. It's been around as long as I can remember. Watch your thoughts, for they become words. Watch your words, for they become actions. Watch your actions, for they become habits. Watch your habits, for they become character. Watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. So the question then becomes, how do we develop this habit of seeing the world as a friendly, as a supportive, and an orderly place? The first thing to do is to recognize that it is its nature to be friendly and supportive and orderly. As Dr. Holmes said, we must know definitely and consistently that the universe is for us and not against us. And I know that's hard. It's hard sometimes. It's hard, really, really hard these days, right? And yet, if you really, really think about it, There is always more good happening in your life than things that are going wrong. There is always more good. If you woke up this morning and had your first cup of coffee, your world is going well, or whatever it is that you drink. There is always more going right than going wrong. Always. It's just that so many of us have been trained by habit to notice and to pay attention to the things that are wrong and disregard the things that are right. So the first habit is to develop looking for the right things, the good things, the positive things that are happening all around you, and to consistently and reliably practice looking for the good until it becomes a habit. Let me give you a for instance. This just happened yesterday. This talk is right now. One of my former congregants at my center that I used to serve in California had emergency surgery on Friday for a massive staph infection in his spine. And it's a latest of a number of health challenges that he's had, and he could easily start to get discouraged. And maybe. But his wife and he are great students of this teaching, and they know the importance of their thoughts and their attitudes. So I called his wife yesterday afternoon to find out how things were going. We have remained friends over these years, and she gave me this long list of all the challenges that he's been having, and there were a number of them. And she asked for treatment, of course, asked for spiritual mind treatment for things to just kind of smooth out. But then she said, oh wait, I have to tell you something. I have to tell you about a bright spot in our life right now. And she went on to tell me about two young teenage girls that were helping them. They have a big farm, a big ranch in that area. And these two teenage girls are helping them with the upkeep of the ranch, and how delightful these girls were. She spent as much energy and time talking about these girls and about how wonderful they were as she did telling me about their recent challenges. And when I hung up, I thought, that is exactly what I'm talking about. And so I have to tell the story. I called her back up and I said, can I share the story tomorrow? Honest to goodness, because we are always at choice as to what we're going to focus on, where our habits are going to take us. So my friend was equally as delighted to tell me about these great things that were happening as she was about the less great things happening. Now, does that mean that the challenging things are going to go away? Well, obviously they're there. He's in the hospital with a life-threatening condition. But I believe that their habitual positive thinking is helping them to see the bright moments in spite and in the midst of the darker places and the darker times. And as we know, light always dispels darkness. Say that with me. Light always dispels darkness. Make that a habit. Light, I'm bringing light into this dark situation. Light always dispels darkness. So that brings me to another habit that can serve all of us, and that is to notice the people who you choose to spend time with. Now, when I say choose to spend time with, I say that very deliberately because I understand that not everybody sitting here is surrounded by positive people all the time. Oh, little giggles going on. Okay, yeah, you know, we've got our spouses and we've got our families and our kids and our grandkids and blah, 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 blah. And they may not be in this way of thinking, and they may not be making positive choices. And if we allow it, we can allow ourselves to get kind of sucked down into the mire, right? Get along right with them. However, we can all make it a habit to find and to hang out with people who are waking up. Whether it's here in class, whether it is or here at the center, or it's in class, or it's hanging out, or finding social media friends. Some of those positive people I know, or my Facebook friends. When you guys. Yeah. In other words, where we have a choice, we can choose to be with people who are also striving to live positive and conscious, life-affirming lives. And when we do that, what happens is that then when we're with those others that are not thinking the way that we are, we already have an established habit of thinking positively and about possibility. So you can almost wear that habit as a suit of armor or like an invisibility cloak. So that when you are around those people, that stuff doesn't get in as easily. Is this making sense? Yeah. And it takes discipline. It takes commitment. Sometimes it takes falling on your face and getting back up again. It's a lifelong practice, just like any other worthwhile practice that we have. I want to close with a quote that I have heard as long as I've been in this teaching. I don't even know who to attribute it to, because it's one of those memes that belongs to everybody. And it is, never forsake principle, not even for a special occasion. Never forsake principle, not even for a special occasion. Now, principle in this case, principle with a capital P, also means truth with a capital T. So another way of putting this is, stay true to what is important to you, whether it be a lifestyle or a belief or a teaching. Stay true even when a special occasion tries to entice you to move away from it. And if you slip, get back up and continue on. Because truly, the journey that we are all on, this journey, with all of its lessons, really is the special occasion. I love you, and so it is.